Well, weaning is that's the second most stressful time in a calf's life outside of birth, and there's a lot of things going on. I mean, the milk supply is drying up. There's sometimes movement from the mountains down to the valley floor. There's all the stress of commingling and those kinds of things. So anything we can do to minimize stress around weaning is going to really be helpful. Some of the things we can do early on. You know, some folks do fence line weaning or abbreviated fence line weaning, where the calves kind of get used to being away from mom. And so then when the weaning event occurs, there's a lot less stress on that calf. So any of the kinds of things we can do to minimize that stress of weaning will be very, very helpful.
Traditionally, you think of a 205-day weaning age, and we're weaning at about 150 to 160 days. And 2 to 3 weeks prior to that weaning date, all the cows and calves will be brought in, and calves will be preconditioned, and that consists of 5-way respiratory shot and a booster on blackleg, and we'll treat the cattle, all the cattle, cows and calves, for parasites. And then the calf will go back with the cow for 2 to 3 weeks from preconditioning time to weaning, and then at weaning time we've been weaning a couple of different ways. The most recently, we'll sort the calves the second time on the day of weaning, and turn the calves out on a meadow or some fresh regrowth upland grazing, and with electric fence in between the cows and the calves, where neither one are really confined. And the other type of weaning that we do then is where we'll actually shut the cow up in the corral for usually 3 nights, and then the calf is running out on aftergrowth of a wet meadow, and they stay full. I think the key to a healthy calf is keeping them full, and if they're used to grazing all summer and nose-to-nose contact with the cow, why, we can still provide that, only in a little different setting. We shut the cow up for 3 nights, and then after that, why, the cow's driven away, and we get along pretty well with that. So a couple different ways that we wean those calves.
Anything we can do on our individual operations to decrease the stress before and at weaning will be helpful. As part of the overall beef quality assurance program, preconditioning has been something that we've talked about for almost 50 years. And preconditioning is really important because it has roots in what's done immediately before weaning, what's done at weaning, and what's done after weaning. And some of the critical areas that are involved are the nutrition of the calf, the immune system, and also the stress that we put on these calves. And so just kind of take those things in order. Nutrition is changing for that calf dramatically. He's going from what was primarily a milk diet a few months before to a zero milk diet at weaning. So we've got to make sure we supply enough nutrients, both in terms of energy and protein. So we can't just feed them, you know, crummy hay when they're weaned. They have much higher protein needs. We got to make sure that they've got all the trace mineral and vitamins that they're going to need, because they're running out of those as they're weaned. And then, you know, the immune system. If we give these cattle behind us today a vaccine, it takes at least 14 days before the immune system even shows its first inclination of having worked. And then for most vaccines, they need a booster, and that's another 28 days. So 42 days is kind of the minimum time from the time we vaccinate an animal until the immune system has kicked in to the point that there has developed a protective immunity. So when we think about preconditioning, 42 days is kind of the absolute minimum, and 65 is much better. And so we need to minimize the stress, we need to increase the nutrition, and we need to give the immune system plenty of time to work so that they're protected against the diseases that they're going to see relatively shortly on the way to the stocker operation or the way to the feedlot.
What we're doing here with these calves is a preconditioning program. And of course, we learned that you need to do it 45 to 60 days ahead of the time that they're going to be gone or weaned. And what I think this program does It not only gets the calves ready scientifically or through the vaccines with their inside of their body, but it also can be a real benefit on getting these cattle to work. And so maybe they've never been worked through a system before. When they get to the feed yard or the backgrounding lot or wherever they're going, they're going to get a lot of this done. And the better they know how to work through a system, the easier it's going to be on the cattle and on the crew at the feed yard. Reduced stress means increased profit for sure, and not only in weight gains, but in less sickness, less injuries to help, less injuries to cattle. The benefits are just, there's too many to mention. You can't, I mean, it just never stops. It's the one thing you can do that you don't have to spend money on to really increase your profit. All you got to do is spend a little time and a little energy and think about what you're doing. And whatever method you use for preconditioning or any kind of work you do with your cattle, whatever method you use, look at your cattle. They'll tell you if they're stressed or not. And the next time you work them, if they work better than the time you worked them before, then you're doing the right thing.